Hello and welcome to another edition of the Under Centre podcast. I'm your host, Dara Marr, and I'm joined today by Jake Woolhead and Rian Malloy. Lads, actually, both of you guys were in London this past weekend. So, Jake, first of all, since you are the Giants fan, how'd you get on?
Yeah, I got on great. As you can see, my chair doesn't have the Eli Manning jersey that came with me for the game, and it obviously brought a lot of luck for me. So, yeah, absolutely delighted. Didn't really expect the game to go the way it did from the first half, at least 17-3 deficit that we got into. Kind of had my hopes down, but the beers kept me warm for the second half to turn around right on time.
Excellent. And Rian, of course, you are actually a Panthers fan, but like you mentioned to us off air, girlfriend is a Packers fan, so you were a Packers fan for the day. So no doubt there was a disappointment afterwards.
Yeah, it was pretty upsetting. I was left with a very grumpy girlfriend, but the whole section that we were in just happened to be Packers fans, and we were all pretty hyped going into halftime. And when the full-time whistle came around, there was not too many smiles in that crowd.
It was crazy walking through London that weekend. Was it just a whole load of Packers fans literally everywhere? It took until maybe Sunday, like an hour before I left, before I seen one Giants fan, and then they trickled in while it was like 80% Packers fans for the whole thing. Even the Giants got a boo when they ran into the stadium.
How actually was the stadium? How was Tottenham? Because I've been to Wembley, I haven't had the chance to go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yet.
It's a nice stadium. It is a really nice stadium. I do think it's a little less crack outside for the old tailgating, but yeah, no, we had nice seats right at the 50-yard line, but we were at the top. But yeah, no, still could see everything. It was nice.
Yeah,
Hey, Rian.
100% agree. It's a stadium that's been built for football, right? So it's got that kind of lower pitch to allow the use of all of the stands, and I think it really helps. There was a great atmosphere there when Aaron Rodgers ran out onto the pitch. That was the loudest I've heard a stadium in a long time. It was mental.
Yeah, and look, say it was upset, of course, by the Giants and the Packers' first time in London, and they lose. I'm sure they won't be in a rush to come back, or maybe they will, just because of the reception that they got. Um, Although Jake, I know you did say that it was mostly just Packers fans for the whole thing, but I've noticed for years of watching the NFL in London games, it's always loads of Packers fans. Whoever plays, you always just see tons of Packers jerseys in the crowd.
I think they must be one of the most popular franchises internationally outside of Green Bay, obviously. But yeah, always. But this game was like exceptional because I go to them almost every year, and the variation on jerseys are just crazy. And usually, there's not like there is obviously a lot of Packers fans, a lot of the teams that are playing, but the variation is crazy. This game just seemed to be green almost everywhere. I sat beside some guys from Wisconsin who had the luchador Packers masks on. It's just crazy, but it was crazy.
Did any of you indulge yourselves in a cheesehead hat that I believe was costing the grand total of 60 quid as well on the day?
Actually,
We
Connor
said
Nass did, yeah.
myself and my
I did
girlfriend said,
convince them.
look, if
Sorry.
there are any less than £30, we'll go for one, because we said that was a high bar to set. £30 for a
Yeah,
piece of plastic, £60. So we decided
60
against it.
pounds for a cheese head. I know I couldn't believe it when I saw the prices that were coming along. But look, the second of two games in London this year, the first game as well with the Saints and the Vikings was a success too, and we'll see now what happens in Wembley in a couple of weeks' time between the Broncos and the Jaguars. We'll see maybe if the Broncos can get their offense sorted in time, and if the Jaguars make sure they don't fall off a cliff, because they are threatening to a little bit now in the last few weeks. So we can still make the game entertaining. We are, of course, going to look ahead to week 6 and preview all the games and give our opinions on what's going to happen. But before we do, I think we cannot go any further, Reen, without asking you. You are a resident Panthers fan. The news during the week, Matt Rule was fired by the Panthers after 2.5 years in charge. Your feelings on the decision by owner David Tepper to relieve Coach Rule of his duties?
It put a little smile on my face there on Monday as I was in the airport going to come home. Yeah, look, I don't think this coaching change is going to make a whole lot of difference. I see Steve Wilkes having had the single year there in Arizona where he was forced into a terrible QB situation with Josh Rosen, and he was forced out after the year after some pretty terrible play. I see it kind of going the same way, right? The Panthers have got a lot of talent across the board, a lot of big names there, but the one thing that's holding them back is the quarterback, and him being a defensive-minded coach. I don't think he's going to be able to get the job done to pull the Panthers out of the slump that they're in. That being said, though, it's a 13-week interview for the job for Wilkes, and I hope he does well. I was a little bit sad to see Phil Snow get the boot as well, but at the same time, when you're installing a defensive head coach like that, you want him to be able to do things his way, as opposed to having a guy with so much seniority there who might be able to kind of undercut him at every angle. So I understand the decision. I just think it was a little bit rough to get rid of Phil Snow and leave Ben McAdoo where he was, because he has been terrible with the play calls this year.
Yeah. And Jake, actually,
it's always nice to get the opinion of a Packers fan, actually.
Yeah. Particularly when it comes to the Panthers, yeah.
Jake, I was going to ask, and Rian mentioned it there as well, that Phil Snow, the defensive coordinator, was relieved of his duties, and Ben McAdoo keeps his job, at least for the time being. Whereas throughout this season, it was actually the defense that was outperforming the offense. So do you agree with what Rian says? Is it a case of it's a defensive head coach, he wants to do things his way, and he doesn't feel he'll be able to do that with Phil Snow staying in his role there?
Yeah, I can see why you would do something like that. I mean, I don't blame him. It's tough to get going as an interim head coach to rally this team, especially if it's so early in the season. It's still a chance you could possibly turn it around if the players can kind of get behind the new interim coach and stuff. And as you said, Ree, it's a bit of an interview for Steve Wilkes himself. So yeah, I don't understand not getting rid of Ben McAdoo. I've seen him myself on the Giants, who he was kind of hit and miss here and there, and obviously with the way the Panthers offense have been playing, it's just a bit bewildering.
Yeah, well, we'll see then what happens over the next couple of weeks, if it is the case that Steve Wilkes can turn things around. A difficult start for him because he has already lost Baker Mayfield for the next couple of games, at least, with a high ankle sprain. So it looks like PJ Walker. I can see Rain at the bottom of the screen just having a smile from ear to ear with that news now as well.
Like, is that a bad thing, really? Really?
Can we cut back to the episode where Ree said, "Oh, there's an upgrade at quarterback for the Panthers"?
Yeah, boy, was I wrong.
Yeah. This is look, in the grand scheme of things, this is the only reason why podcasts are done, so we can go back and give each other shit for our terrible takes in previous weeks. I said the Seattle Seahawks defense was going to be a standout this year, and they are the worst defense in football. So look, it happens.
You can bet that. Yeah.
It happens. But before we move on to our preview for week 6, I should also mention that this show today is brought to you in partnership with Locker. Locker is a new sports app that centralizes premium sports content and puts the power in the hands of fans to personalize their world of sport, including a wide range of premium NFL sources that can be tailored to your fan experience. Download the app for free in the Irish or UK iOS and Play Store today. But let's get straight into our preview for week 6, and let's talk about the Thursday night football game first, and that is, of course, the Washington Commanders, who are 1-4, traveling to Soldier Field to take on the Chicago Bears at 2-3. The Commanders coming off their disappointing loss at home to the Titans, where Carson Wentz threw an interception with the last play of the game pretty much to seal the win for the Titans. The Bears coming off there almost come from behind victory against the Vikings last week. But an interesting stat coming in this game, Carson Wentz, who's come in for a lot of criticism this year, even from his own head coach, we've heard this week in Ron Rivera, he is 6-0 on Thursday night football games since entering the league. He is on course. If he can win on Thursday night, he will be only the 4th QB after Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Russell Wilson to win 7 straight Thursday night football games. On the Bears side of things, Justin Fields had one of his better games last week, both with his legs and throwing the football against the Vikings. Maybe the sign of things starting to turn around for that offense. But Jake, I'll start with you first on this game. What are your thoughts ahead of Commanders at Bears?
I mean, it's probably not the most exciting game we were looking forward to, especially after a pretty poor last week Thursday night game. But I'm at least a little bit excited to look at the Commanders. They got that rookie running back who come in. I think he was on a snap count last week, but good to see him come back. It might provide a little bit of a spark for that kind of lulling offense there on the Washington Commanders side. I don't know how I feel about this game. It's Thursday night football, which is never the most exciting game of the week, and we just have to watch two not good teams go at it. So I'm probably not staying up late for this game. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, but that's just Murphy's Law, isn't it? Like this is set up to be a terrible game, right?
It's like 70-point game or something.
Yeah, it's gonna be an explosive game, start to finish. I can feel it. Look, Justin Fields looked like an actual competent quarterback in the game last week. So I expect them to kind of have a nice enough game in this one. That Commanders defense is not great on the back end, and they struggle to stop the run as well. So I think the likes of Montgomery and the backup
Khalil Herbert.
Yes. They're going to have big days as well on the ground. And watch out for a bit of Justin Fields scrambling, because we saw that nice big run against the Vikings that was just so unfortunately pulled back for the holding call.
I can't believe that stat though. 6-0 on Thursday night football for Carson Wentz. Like, that is just crazy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a bet on them and they're gonna lose. Like, that's just the reality of the situation here for me. But I love a stat like that. They're kind of pointless, but also I'm into it.
Look, it can't get any worse than last week's game between the Colts and the Broncos. So as long as it's better than that, and we have at least, there was no touchdowns at all in the game last week. So at least if we have one touchdown, we're already doing better than we did last week. So I'm thinking, very quickly, lads, who are you thinking for this game though?
I'll go first. I'm all in on this Commanders streak going forward. I'm all in on the Wentz streak. Let me just quickly check what the handicap here is for us.
While he's checking that, Rian,
while he's doing that, I'm going to go against them and say the Bears. I've said it before. I'll say it again. They're able to rely on that running game regardless of how bad Justin Fields is, and I can see them going to 500 this week.
Okay.
It's a pick'em game, which means usually it's a +1 point favorite to the home team, but it doesn't seem to be. So it's dead evens on this one.
Dead evens. Okay, fair enough. I think I am looking at the Bears in this game as well, mostly because of the home advantage. I think, especially on a short week, home advantage is a huge plus for a team. I think home teams in Thursday night football so far this year are winning as well. Apart from week 1 and last week, I think it was mostly just home teams that were winning them. So I'm going to continue that streak, and I think that the Bears are going to win this game and to go 3-3, and the Commanders to sink even lower and put a lot of fire under the seat of Coach Ron Rivera, of course, because I think the comments that he's making now recently, the stuff about just basically blaming the quarterback for why he's behind in the NFC East.
That was very much taken out of context.
Yeah,
though. Like
absolutely.
his very next comment was that the reason is every other QB in that division have been there more than a year, and Carson Wentz has come in. He also said he has absolutely no regrets in bringing Wentz in. So
yeah, I don't know. We'll see though. We'll see. If they do get the win, and Carson Wentz, he did play a decent game last week, apart from that interception at the end. But that's the problem. He always has a mistake in him, and it's coming soon. So whether it's the first play or the last play, if he hasn't made a mistake yet, it's coming soon, and that's always the worry when it comes to Wentz. But we'll move on to Sunday's games. And we'll start, of course, with the early slate. Let's have a look at the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, the 49ers running back Jeff Wilson actually had a huge game last week. 132 scrimmage yards and a 15th career rushing TD. He's aiming for his third game in a row with a rushing touchdown. And a third game in a row on the road with over 100 yards scrimmage. So it's an interesting stat there for the 49ers. On the Falcons side of things, Drake London, of course, their rookie wide receiver, had 4 catches for 35 yards last week against the Bucs. He ranks actually third among rookies with 22 receptions and about 256 yards. Of course, the Bucs are the Falcons coming off that heartbreaking loss against the Bucs last week, which included that crazy roughing the passer call on Grady Jarrett. And the 49ers coming off that game against the Panthers that, of course, ended up being Matt Rule's last game in charge. Rian, I'll start with you first on this one. What are your thoughts ahead of 49ers at Falcons?
Yeah, I'm really liking the look of this 49ers team. Their offense played very well at the weekend against what is a strong, albeit injury-depleted Carolina Panthers team. It kind of just depends on what version of Jimmy G you get on the day. It could be throw a pick six safety Jimmy G, or it could be light the place up and have 260, 300 yards passing and a couple of touchdown passes to boot. So I think that's really where it's going to come down to on the 49ers offensive side of the ball. Looking at the Falcons, they really need to get things going against what has been a dominant defense. I think it's probably going to rely a lot on Kyle Pitts getting the ball out quickly and maybe utilizing Mariota's kind of mobility as a quarterback. Yeah, we need to see him run the ball more than he has been in recent weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of comes down, as you said, this like the Falcons D-line against the 49ers O-line and how much time it can give Jimmy G to avoid any of these mistakes that you mentioned. So I'm looking forward to seeing that battle. And also maybe George Kittle, I'm looking forward to seeing him maybe turn it around a bit more in the passing game. I know he's been a key person there for that run blocking, but I'm sure he'd also like to see a couple of more TDs with his name on them. So I'm hoping he can get a few more. The Falcons, I would like to see Kyle Pitts just explode a bit more. He had a bit of a good week last week. So if he just lives up to that 4th overall pick type of game, maybe then you have a proper game to have on Sunday.
I think injuries are a very underrated thing for the 49ers as well this week, because as far as I'm aware, Joey Bosa is not going to make it. He has a groin injury. I think it's Mosley is out with an ACL. I think Ward, their cornerback, is out with a broken wrist. So the injuries are starting to mount up a little bit. And of course, the likes of Trent Williams and stuff is out too. I don't know. I think maybe we might see something from the Falcons in this game. I know you mentioned about Jimmy G and his games where he has 260 or 300 yards throwing the ball, but realistically, they're sort of false yards because it's a lot of yak yards after that. You throw a 5-yard pass to Deebo Samuel and he runs it in for 50, or you throw a 5-yard pass to, George Kittle and he runs it for 20, 25 yards. It's so if they can stop the yak yards and get the players down as soon as they catch the ball, that's where the Falcons, I think, have a chance. They lost their main linebacker last week with Deion Jones being traded to the Browns as well. So that's going to be interesting, especially when it comes to this run game and what they can do. Tevin Coleman actually came back and had a great game last week for the 49ers as well. So it's not just on Jeff Wilson's shoulders. So we'll see. We'll see there when it comes to that. For me, I am probably going to go with a 49ers win on this. I did mention them as my Super Bowl team at the start of the year, and I think if they are going to be that Super Bowl team, they're going to have to win these games, and I think they can go to Atlanta and win them. Jake, who have you got first?
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean 49ers with you on this one. If any kind of coach can overcome a slew of injuries, it's definitely going to be Kyle Shanahan. So I'm going to lean towards them. And I also just want to make the note that I think you picking the 49ers as a Super Bowl team when they were starting Trey Lance at the time was a mad pick. But now that you've Jimmy G, I can give you it back.
I'm going to go ahead and make it a clean sweep for the Niners in this one, which presumably means the Falcons are going to do it. But no, the
it happened with our
49ers.
Thursday night football pick last week with the Broncos.
Yeah. The 49ers are a good football team. The Falcons are a bad football team. Logic dictates the 49ers win that game.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's move on then to the next game on Sunday, and that is the New England Patriots against the Cleveland Browns. 2 and 3 teams going up against each other. QB Bailey Zappi, of course, made his first career start last week and completed 17 of 21 passes with a touchdown and an interception for a 100 rating. A nice, perfect 100 rating. I love it. He's actually aiming for his third game in a row with a 100 plus QBR. So we'll see if that. On the Brown side of things, of course, Nick Chubb has continued his great start to the year, rushing for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. His 7th career game with 100 plus rush yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, tied for the second most in NFL since 2018. Is the only player in the NFL with 100 scrimmage yards in each of his first 5 weeks, and become the first player since 2018 with 100 plus scrimmage yards in each of the team's first 6 games of the season. He leads the NFL with 593 rush yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. I think I'll start first on this game. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, the Patriots defense shut out the Lions last week, a team that also likes to run the ball. The Browns were extremely unlucky not to beat the Chargers last week just for a failed Cade York field goal at the end of the game, which he just... I think it just hit the side of his boot. It just went right as soon as he kicked it. It was just gone. It didn't even hit the net, I don't think. I think Belichick loves playing against the Browns. The Patriots have actually won the last 4 games they played against them. It is tough. Brissett has had a really good season as well. A lot better than I thought he was going to have now as the backup. The Browns have lost 3 games this year, and the aggregate score for their 3 games is 6 points that they've lost by combined. That is a crazy stat. I think this will be a close game. I'm going to lean towards the Browns, or not the Browns, sorry, the Patriots rushing attack being too much for the Browns. They can't stop the run at all this year. They've, like I mentioned there in the previous game, they brought in Deion Jones to help in the run game in the linebacking position. But I think that the Patriots will just have enough to beat the Browns and leave Cleveland with the win. Rian, what do you think?
It's interesting that you mentioned the Patriots running game, considering they have now lost a guy, their starter, and they're down to Ramondre Stevenson, who in my eyes is not really an every down back, right? He's good first to third down, but when you need that like through the tackle, short yardage situation, I don't really see Ramondre doing it. On the flip side of things, you have obviously got the best running back in the league at the moment and a pretty good sidekick in Kareem Hunt. No pun intended on that, by the way. I really can't see the Browns losing this game, to be honest. I think they have too much talent across the board for the Patriots, who have been sputtering recently. Now, I did like the way Bailey Zappi moved the football in his last game. Surprisingly more so than Mac Jones. Maybe that was down to the defense he was playing against, but still he managed to move the football and looked competent doing it. So for me, it's a little bit of a toss-up, but I think the Browns will come out on top.
Yeah, I'm far more on the Brown side than you, Ree, but I do think it's going to be a good game. I'm a big fan of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt duo in the backfield. I just think they're going to be a little bit overwhelming for that Patriots D-line, even though they're, as we know, they're quite good with the run. But I'm also really liking, as you said, Dara, how Jake Biscuit started to play or has been playing throughout the season, especially with, he seems to be latching on to a nice target, David Njoku, getting a lot of kind of them yards with him, and Njoku himself is playing quite well. So I don't know. I just see this game going more in the Browns' favor. They were quite unlucky against the Chargers. The Pats blew out the Lions there last week. As we know, the Lions don't really have a defense as such. So I'm not really saying that they can score that well, and I don't think they'll score that well on the Browns.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on then from 2-2-3 teams to 2-3-2 teams. Incredibly, one of them is the New York Jets, and they're traveling to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers. Packers coming off, like we mentioned, that London loss against the Giants. The Jets coming off a 40-17 demolition job of the Miami Dolphins. Interestingly enough, the Packers have actually won the last 3 meetings between these sides. On the Jets side of things, Michael Carter had a career high 2 rushing touchdowns in week 5 against the Dolphins, and along with Bryce Hall, who had 2 as well. I should say they're one of 2 pairs of AFC running backs, along with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, to each have 2 rushing touchdowns in 2022. So the Jets are sort of taking something out of the Browns playbook a little bit in terms of having 2 very competent running backs that can play on multiple downs. So maybe they can have that 2-headed attack to help Zach Wilson. And they still have some dangerous receivers on the outside as well. Of course, on the Packers, like I said, they're coming back off that disappointing loss, which kind of showed as well in the second half, especially that this receiving core is probably not the receiving core that's going to take them to the Super Bowl. It's going to be very tough for them. They might still make the playoffs. They might make win a game or 2 in the playoffs, but Super Bowl might be a little bit out of their hands. Jake, I'll start with you first on this one. What are your thoughts ahead of Packers against the Jets?
It's going to be a good game. I think the Jets have kind of come into their own offensively, and they're able to score some points now. They've got a pretty decent running back pair. You mentioned Michael Carter, Breece Hall. I think the 2 of them are going to be quite a good duo in the next years coming. And I'm really liking their wide receiver core. I think they're pretty decent. The Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, that rookie has been playing pretty good as well. So, I really like that. And their defense seems to be holding its own. I'm really liking how Quinnen Williams kind of played so far. I liked how he plays. And CJ Mosley, Quan Alexander, them guys as well are going to be pretty tough. You have to I assume Robert Saleh is going to take something out of last week's game against the Packers, how the Giants played the Packers on defense, which was blitz a lot and not give them a lot of time for them receivers to get open. So I like the Jets. I don't know if I'm going to pick them to win this game, but because you can never count out Aaron Rodgers, really, can you? Like, especially when it's Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon in the backfield, and Randall Cobb. He's okay. He's old, but he's still okay. So no, I don't know that. I feel like the Jets running is going to just take off in this game, and the Packers can't stop it right now. So it's going to be a pretty tough one for them.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I don't know if you noticed in that London game, but Aaron Rodgers had some awful overthrows and underthrows in that game. I don't know if he's carrying an injury or something, but it's absolutely not like Aaron Rodgers when he is usually deadly accurate, regardless of the length of throw that he's thrown it out.
Ryan, sorry, just to interrupt you very quickly. He did miss practice on Wednesday with a thumb injury.
Okay, that's interesting. So I don't know if that's affecting him more than maybe he's making out. But yeah, he did not look like the Aaron Rodgers we know and love in that game, and this might carry on to the next game. On the flip side of that, the Jets, I think the spark that they really needed was Zach Wilson. Since he's come back, they've looked like a totally different football team. One who are capable of playing offense and playing it well. I still think they're trying to kind of cover up some of the Zach Wilson inefficiencies, maybe is the right word, by running the football, getting the ball out of his hands, some stunt plays and that sort of thing. We saw him catch a touchdown there a couple of weeks ago, and they had 5 rushing touchdowns at the weekend. So I think as he has been the spark, but they're being smart about it, and he's still a young quarterback. He still makes mistakes. So put as much as he can on the star-studded wide receiver core and that 1-2 punch that you got in the backfield. Like Jake, I'm pretty close on this game. I don't really know who I want to go for. I'll probably go for the Packers just to save the beatdown that my girlfriend will give me if I don't pick him.
I don't know why. I don't know if we are able to say this, but I like the Jets. I do. I like the Jets, and I
agree.
I think this matchup is horrible for the Packers. We saw last week that their O-line couldn't stop the pressure from the Giants' defensive line. They had pressure on Rodgers all the time. The Jets' defensive line is probably even better. You mentioned Quinn Williams, also Carl Lawson as well there too. They've got the linebacking duo of K'Wan Alexander and CJ Mosley have started the season really, really well. So that'll help in the run game. There were cornerbacks are probably, I think they ranked in the top 5 cornerback pairing so far this year, in DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. And then Jordan Whitehead as a Super Bowl winner with the Buccaneers for that experience in the very back too. I think it's just going to be a nightmare for the Packers. And like I mentioned, their defense has not been performing well at all this year, considering the names that are there. They just have not been able to perform up to the standards that's expected. And Saquon Barkley was giving them so much trouble in the running game last week. And like that, we mentioned with Carter and Hall too. I really do think that the Jets can go to Lambeau and beat the Packers and put a lot of pressure on LaFleur and Rodgers now. So I'm going to actually go for the Jets on this.
Yeah, I think I might do it. They're 7-point underdogs. So Giants came from -8.5. So maybe the Jets can come from -7 to win it, or +7. Sorry, wrong way around.
+7. Yeah.
How crazy is it that we're talking about 2 good football teams in New York at this stage of the season? Wild.
Who said before the start of the season the 4-1 Giants and the 3-2 Jets? That's just crazy.
I know, it's unbelievable. We'll get to the Giants in a little bit, but we'll move on to an AFC South matchup. It's a repeat of week 1. The Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Of course, so like I mentioned, the repeat of week 1 where the Jaguars beat the Colts. The Jaguars have actually won the past 2 games, including that one at week 18 of last season too. So the Jaguars seem to have the Colts number a little bit, but things have sort of, come off a cliff for the last few weeks for the Jaguars. They were 14 points up against the Eagles and threw that away and lost against an undefeated Eagles team. You can understand that, but they played so poorly in that game last week against the Texans, and both teams didn't play great in general. A standout, though, for the Jaguars so far is their rookie linebacker, Devin Lloyd, who is aiming for his 3rd game in a row with 11 plus tackles. He leads all rookies this year with 49 tackles. So if you're looking for a defensive player of the year candidate to throw a few quid on, Devin Lloyd is definitely up there for sure. With the Colts, Matt Ryan was aiming for his 3rd game in a row with 250 plus passing yards. He has a 105 rating in each of his first 2 home games this year. He is one of 3 NFL quarterbacks, which include Josh Allen and Tom Brady, with 350 plus pass yards in multiple games this year. Getting up and down the field isn't the problem for the Colts. It's the red zone that seems to be a problem with the Colts, and not being able to finish drives off and not being able to get the run game going in a team that we've known for years to have such a strong offensive line. The offensive line this year has been so poor and has been allowing Matt Ryan to be sacked multiple times each game. I think he has the most fumbles as well for any player in the league this year too. So it's been a struggle so far for the Colts. Rian, I'll start with you first on this one. What are your thoughts ahead of Jaguars at Colts?
Yeah, I think it really boils down to that Colts O-line. I think if they're missing Jonathan Taylor again as well, that's going to be a major issue. But I mean, the O-line giving up all those sacks against the Broncos there last week. I mean, we saw them get down into multiple red zone situations, and Matt Ryan takes sacks that kind of knock them out to the point where field goals actually start becoming difficult. And part of that is on the O-line, but part of that is on Matt Ryan holding on to the football too long. I think he has been doing that a lot this season. And that's when you kind of see these stats creep in where there's, fumbles. I think he has 5 on the season so far, which is just an outrageous number for a guy of his.
You can go ahead. We'll inform when he gets back.
Okay. But for a guy of his caliber and his, stature in the league, I think, it's wild that he's doing that. Like, you can understand it from younger guys, but a guy like him, he should know by now that if he's in red zone situations and he sees the blitz coming, there's nobody open, get rid of the ball. Do not take the sack. And it's like mistakes like that are costing Colts games this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I completely agree with you. This might be the most boring game of Sunday coming. Both teams probably can't score. Both teams can't score in the red zone. So it's going to come down to the kickers and who's got the better kicker, to be honest. But as you said, Matt Ryan makes a lot of mistakes. The Jaguars have got some good takeaways from the other teams. So maybe we see a lot of mistakes from Matt Ryan this game with an overpowering pressure from Josh Allen on the defense of that Jags team or whoever, Devin Lloyd, that rookie, as you mentioned, Dara. So I don't know. It's just going to be boring. I don't really want to watch this game. I don't really think like Matt Ryan set that team back a couple of years, in my opinion. It's not good. It's not good at all. And if, as you said, if Jonathan Taylor isn't playing, that's just a whole nother mess that the Colts have to get through, where the Jags have 2 decent running backs ready to go. So yeah, no, most boring game. I don't think I'm going to watch it. Well, I will watch the condensed probably.
That is the definition of a YouTube highlight game. That's what it is. It's Dara's YouTube highlight game of the week. It's the one that you'll spend the 10-15 minutes watching on YouTube, and that's all I think you'll need to know about it. But it's a tough one though to pick for me. I'm not too sure. If Jonathan Taylor plays, I would imagine that the Colts would have enough to win that game. If he doesn't play, I think the Jaguars could. It's weird. Like, the strengths of the Colts are kind of, they help counterbalance the strengths of the Jaguars. Like, some of their wide receivers are quite good, but the Colts cornerbacks have been really good this year, which include, of course, Stephen Gilmore, I should say. I'm going to go with the Colts on this one only because they have home advantage, only because they're looking to avenge their last 2 defeats against the Jaguars too. Might be a bit of just a lull period now for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars for the next few weeks, and hopefully he can come back a little stronger after that.
Yeah,
I'm going to go against you there. I'll go against you. I think that Trevor Lawrence did a pretty good job passing the football last week. Maybe didn't do as much in the red zone as he should have. But we have seen improvements by him this season. And I think he's going to take that step forward. The Colts defense, as good as they look on paper, have not been performing all that well. True, they didn't allow a touchdown versus the Broncos, but the Broncos offense have been abysmal this season. So I expect Trevor Lawrence to get things going in this game. And look for them to lean on James Robinson and Travis Etienne in the game. Etienne had his highest career scrimmage yardage on the game last week. So, yeah, expect them to lean on that running game. And I see the Jaguars coming away with a W in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. If I have to pick one, it has to be the Jags, I think, on this one. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to pick one from this game. So I'm going to go with the Jags.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. That's no problem at all. Just when I win, I'll try not to rub it in your faces too much. I don't think anybody wins with this game now on Sunday. But anyway, let's move on and let's have a look at the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Like I mentioned earlier on, the Vikings coming off their 29-22 win against the Bears. The Dolphins coming off their 40-17 loss against the Jets. Tua Tagovailoa is back in practice this week, we've seen, but he's already been ruled out for the game this week by Mike McDaniel. Obviously giving him another week to, rest that concussion. And we still don't know about Teddy Bridgewater if he's going to make it. If not, then we'll probably see Skylar Thompson. Tyreek Hill is a doubt. We don't know if he's going to make it now to this game. He left the game with a boot on last week against the Jets, so we'll see how he is there. On the Vikings side of things, Dalvin Cook went for 2 touchdowns last year. Justin Jefferson is continuing his case for Offensive Player of the Year. He had a career high 12 receptions for 154 yards, and he's tied with Hall of Famers Lance Alworth and Randy Moss for the most games with 150 plus yards in his first 3 seasons as an NFL player. He has 17 games so far with 100 plus receiving yards, the third most by any player in his first 3 career seasons. And I think the key, obviously, for the Vikings to win this game is to give Jefferson the ball as much as he can. Obviously, he'll have Xavier Howard looking after him in that game too. So it'll be interesting to see that little battle, to see how things progress on that. On the Dolphin side of things, like I mentioned, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson, it'll be important to get the run game going, especially with Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds. If Tyreek Hill can't make it, obviously more responsibility will fall on the shoulders of Jalen Waddle. But we'll see what happens there. Jake, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it really all relies on if Teddy Bridgewater is playing or not, because at least we know Teddy Bridgewater can play. Skylar Thompson didn't play too badly last week, but I don't know if that's going to be sustainable for a quarterback, a rookie quarterback. So I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lead to the Vikings early, and then there's going to be a lot of running the ball from the Vikings and a lot of playing catch up from the Dolphins. So I don't know. Like, I know I like Raheem Mostert. He's just a bit injury prone, so he can catch the ball and stuff like this, but I don't know. I just don't see them being able to run the ball because I feel like they're going to be playing catch up.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Jake on this one. The Dolphins are starting to worry me a bit. This feels like a little bit of a slide starting to form. If they lose this game, it's going to be like catch-up time for the Dolphins to try and go ahead and win that division, because they will be looking to win that division to really kind of give themselves the best advantage that they can in the playoffs. But the Vikings are looking very, very strong. Dalvin Cook on the ground is looking fantastic. Justin Jefferson, I love the way they move him around the pitch, set him up in different positions, and get the ball to him as often as they can. Yeah, Cousins is playing all right, but on the defensive side of the ball, Zadarius Smith is having himself a season. He was good over with the Green Bay Packers, moving to a divisional rival. Now, sometimes doesn't work out, but it certainly has for Zadarius Smith. So, yeah, I see the Vikings winning this game regardless of who's starting up quarterback, and I think it will be Teddy Bridgewater. We didn't see much wrong with him in that game. I saw some of the fan footage. I didn't see the stumbling that the spotters saw. So, yeah, I'm taking the Vikings in this one.
Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah. I'm gonna. Sorry, Jake, I was just going to mention, of course, he was, you could say, I don't want to say a victim, but he was pulled out of the game because of the new concussion ruling that was brought in because of the issues around Tua and him coming back into games and stuff like that. So, the Dolphins just can't seem to get out of the news when it comes to stuff like that. But Jake, sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I'm going to lean the Vikings anyway, regardless of whether Teddy B plays or not. But the whole game changes for me if Teddy Bridgewater starts to play, because now you feel like you can have a more even passing attack with your rushing attack. But I still think that they're not going to be able to hold back the Vikings offense, and they're going to have to play a bit of catch up, which becomes harder when you're starting a rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Exactly, and I am going to lean with the Vikings on this game as well. I think it's going to be important for them to continue into the second half of games. We've seen them dominate first half of games a lot this year, especially even last week, and in the London game as well against the Saints, that they went up early in these games, but they allowed teams to come back into it. They have to stop that, or they have to continue to put their foot on the gas pedal and continue on the offense to start driving up points so they don't get into these games. If it wasn't for a holding call, the Bears would have won that game last week with the Justin Fields run that was called back for the hold. So You know, the Vikings could easily be 2-3, 3-2 right now if it wasn't for these, you know, calls going their way and these last minute wins. So I think that it's important for them to play a full 60-minute game and not a first half game or a 30-minute game. But I still am going to lean with them to win this one. We'll move on then to the Bengals traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. The Bengals coming off that Sunday Night Football loss to the Baltimore Ravens. The Saints coming off their huge win against the Seahawks with Taysom Hill going for 4 total touchdowns, 3 rushing and 1 throwing. If you need a player to have a career day, just play the Seahawks. He'll give you that to them. No problem at all. Looking at this game first, I am leaning a bit towards the Bengals on this one. Joe Burrow is actually quite a good road quarterback. He has I just saw the stats there for let me just see. He has 20 touchdowns, 19 pass and 1 rushing touchdown to 5 interceptions and with a 104 rating in his last 9 home games. He is a very good road quarterback. The defense plays sneakily good too. It's not getting a lot of credit at the moment, and even to keep the Ravens down to just 19 points as well last week was quite good. The Saints, on the other hand, do struggle a bit on offense. We don't know about the health of Chris Olave just yet, if he's going to make it after that nasty looking concussion he took. Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas should be back this week. Like I mentioned, Taysom Hill had a fantastic game last week. It looks like they might be sticking with Andy Dalton again, a quarterback this week. I don't think Jameis is quite ready. So they are getting some offensive pieces back. The defense does flatter to deceive a little bit. They should be performing, I feel, a little bit better. But yeah, I think I'm going to lean towards the Bengals in this game just for the quarterback. And I think that he'll be able to see. But before you actually get into the game, did you see that? I think that thing on Twitter there during the week about the Sunday Night Football game giving away Joe Mixon's tells for plays.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. That's just silly stuff, isn't it? That's just almost like high school level football.
Yeah,
just seems ridiculous.
It is. But Rian, I'll actually start with you first on this one. What are your thoughts ahead of the Bengals at Saints?
My thoughts are pretty similar to yourselves in terms of it's a difficult one to call. Like you said, Joe Burrow is a very good road quarterback. He's just a very good quarterback in general, I believe. But he didn't have the best of games last week. I think he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception, something like that. But he didn't look himself the whole game. And what is making me go the opposite to yourself on this one, Dara, is momentum. I think that Saints win was very big for them, going out there and beating the Seahawks. Admittedly, not the best defense in the world, but at the same time, they went out, they scored points, and it's going to feel good in the Saints locker room, where the Bengals probably feel a little bit beat down. They're 2-3 when they weren't really expecting to be, and the Saints are 2-3 without their starting quarterback. So I think they're going to be pretty happy with how things are going. The momentum will be with their way, and that's what's kind of putting me towards picking the Saints in this one.
Yeah, I think that's a bit dangerous, though, to be honest. I've seen a tweet just before we started recording this that Michael Thomas was not spotted at practice today, which doesn't generally bode well for them. And also, one of their defensive players wasn't spotted at practice as well. So we'll have to see how that plays out for the rest of the week. But what I'm thinking in this game is takeaways. I've seen the Saints they've given it or taken it away 5 times and given it away a total of 13 times, which is not a good ratio here. We've seen Von Bell has 3 interceptions on the season, so maybe that continues on this game, 1 or 2 more. I'm liking the way the Bengals have played, but that O-line scares me. It's just not good, like as good as it should be to protect Joe and the 2 Joes in the backfield. But at least we've seen Joe Mixon have a pretty decent game and the rest of them running backs room. So I'm going to lean the Bengals on this one. I think that's just the way the game's going to go. I just don't think, you can compare that Seattle win to anything, even though it's just a bit of momentum. But when you look at the stats of that team, the Seattle team's defense is just not good, and you can't hold that. Where the Ravens defense is quite good, and they still managed to score the 17 points there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the Bengals on this game. Like I mentioned, I am leaning towards them. I think I am going to go for them. I think that they are a team that are in a better position at the moment to be going towards playoffs and Super Bowl. They have the better players in the important positions, and I think that'll be enough for them to leave New Orleans with the win. But let's move on then to this game. Jake's favorite game of the week. The Baltimore Ravens traveling to MetLife to take on the New York Giants. Jake, I'll let you go first on this one. What are your thoughts ahead of this game?
I plead the fifth. I feel like if I don't talk on this game, I won't be able to jinx anything. But no, in seriousness on this game, it's tough. I would like to pick the Giants, but I feel like this is the game out of the next couple of games that we're going to lose. It's a tough Ravens team with a quality quarterback who can seem to throw now, and then also still has his rushing ability. He's hard to contain in that pocket. So it's going to be tough. Although the Giants have Wink Martindale, who was the defensive coordinator of that Ravens team for the past couple of years. So he might have a bit of an inside track on how to stop Lamar Jackson running into that. Keep running all over the place and throwing the ball around. But on the Giants offensive side, we also have maybe 3 practice squad receivers playing as a starting wide receiver. We still got Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones' ankle didn't seem to bother him last week, and that offensive line seems to be getting into a bit of a rhythm. So it's a pick 'em for me. I don't see them losing like they would have usually lost in recent years, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's a little bit crazy that we're talking about, like, are the Giants gonna win this game? Like, if you gave Jake at the start of the season 4-2 to start out, you would have bit your hand off for it. But now he's talking about, I don't know, can we beat the Ravens? For me, I just think Lamar is too good for this Giants team. I like the Giants team. I've said it every single week that I've watched them. I like how they play football. They're very gritty, but the Ravens do have that big magic button that they press all the time. That is, when things go poorly, get it to Mark Andrews or just keep it in Lamar's hands. And it seems to work 99 times out of 100. So I expect to see the Giants winning at some point in this game, but that big red button will be smashed by the offensive coordinator. We'll see a big game from Andrews and a big game from Lamar on the ground. And unfortunately, I can see the Giants slipping to 4-2 in this one.
Yeah, I think one area that Jake sort of kind of alluded to that I think is very important in this game is that wide receivers. And it worked last week against a underperforming, Packers secondary. But I think the likes of Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters especially, I think, are going to just gobble up chances to try and, get at the football if and when Daniel Jones does throw it. I think especially with Peters, I think he just has this eye for knowing how to get into the heads of these receivers and even into his own head as well, as we saw after the game against, who was the game that they lost before the game last week against the Bengals? The Bills. That was the Bills game where he just lost his mind and ended up having a fight with his own coach. But I think that the Ravens defensive line hasn't been great this year, so I do think Daniel Jones will have loads of time to throw the ball. Could be the worst thing for Daniel Jones to give him too much time to throw the ball.
Hang on, his interception and fumble rate has gone drastically down this season. He's only got 3 interceptions, I think, and 2 fumbles. I think it's like, come on, man, give him some credit. He's turned a little bit around.
Only 2 fumbles through 5 weeks. Like that's
it's pretty low comparatively.
Still not great.
It's better than Matt Ryan's anyway, for sure. So,
true.
But yeah, look, I think Lamar Jackson is continuing his quest for MVP, and it continues on Sunday against the Giants. I think like you mentioned, the safety net of Mark Andrews, but also the fact that the likes of Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay, who no one would have guess would perform as well as they are this year, are fantastic in the wide receiver positions for the Ravens. J.K. Dobbins, since he's come back from his injury, has sort of, hasn't had that breakout game. I think this could be his breakout game this week. His welcome back game after his injury. So I'm going to go with the Ravens. A sort of clean sweep for this game, unfortunately. But look, nothing to say that this is going to be the end of the road for the Giants, just that they're against a team that is further along the road than they are. That's it.
I'm just trying to quick search who has more fumbles than Daniel Jones, and it's Matt Ryan, Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz, Baker Mayfield, Justin Fields, Matthew Stafford, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Flacco, Davis Mills. It's a whole load of more quarterbacks way ahead of Daniel Jones. Give him some credit.
You know who doesn't?
Not on 4-1 teams though.
You know who doesn't though? Geno Smith.
Yeah.
But we'll move. I only get to brag so much about the Seahawks. Let me have this, okay? Let's move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers, who are 1-4. The Steelers coming off that hammering against the Bills last week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers lucky to come out of their victory against the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, we mentioned that very questionable roughing the passer call as well. This game, whereas a couple of years ago, if this was to happen, the teams would have been in very different places, with probably the Steelers more established and the Buccaneers struggling. Now that it's kind of turned on its head a little bit. A big thing for me is the Tampa Bay defense against this offense and against this rookie quarterback in Kenny Pickett, who didn't actually, despite the score last week, did not play that badly against the Bills. Only giving up the one interception and had some very nice throws that, if his wide receivers could keep their feet in bounds, would have actually improved the stat line even a little bit, and probably they would have scored more. I worry for their running game. Najee Harris is really disappointed this year, and the Bucs don't give up a lot in the running game either. I do fancy the Buccaneers to go and win this game, and on the other side of things, with the Steelers defense that have really flattered to deceive, that they are really missing the likes of TJ Watt so much in this period. I'm going to go for a Bucs win, and I think it could be quite a straightforward win for the Bucs in this game. But Rian, I'll start with you first on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't be as confident in calling it a locked up win for the Buccaneers. They too have been having their struggles on the offensive side of the football. Tom Brady looks like he's had a little bit of a decrease in his abilities for the first time in his career, which is interesting to see. So yeah, I mean, the Steelers are a bad football team, right? I don't like Kenny Pickett. I don't like the way their defense is performing without TJ Watt. So I still think I'll be going for the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers have the potential to lose this game as well, because they have just been underperforming all season. And it's just one of those games that, someone is going to beat them that shouldn't. And it could very well be the Steelers.
I don't see them dropping this game, really, especially as you mentioned the TJ Watt factor. If he was in this game, you might be calling it a little bit closer towards the Steelers, but I do think Leonard Fournette might have himself a little game here with some nice yards, especially trying to catch it. We know he had quite a good few receptions there last week, so I can see this just being a game of hand it to Leonard Fournette and then occasionally take your shot downfield to Mike Evans or Chris Godwin or whoever else can run the ball down there. And I think that the Bucs defense can really swallow this rookie quarterback up, being that we know Todd Bowles is a defensive guy. He might come up with some cool new schemes or something cool that might confuse Kenny Pickett. And I just see it being a Buccaneers game. I might maybe lock this game up.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would say expect some interesting looks at the start, maybe like cover zero looks with guys dropping back who you might not expect, that sort of thing. Just everything to get a young quarterback off his nice, comfortable throwing platform.
Well, that's it. It hasn't been that comfortable anyway. Your first game of the year going up against the Buffalo Bills, he's definitely not been comfortable. And then he's facing the Buccaneers, He's definitely putting them in at the deep end anyway, Coach Tomlin, to start them out. So maybe after these games, the rest of the ones will seem easy. But this one especially, I think, might be just a little tough for him. Let's get into the late slate of games. And let's start with the Carolina Panthers, of course, 1-4, and head coach Les traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Super Bowl champion Rams, who are 2-3. It looks like PJ Walker is going to start this game. And interestingly enough, we talked about some interesting Carson Wentz stats. Let's look at this one, right?
I see this stat.
Yeah. In his season day, or last week, in his season debut, he was 55 out of 6 for an 83 rating. But he is 2-0 as a starter and can join Kyle Allen, Devin Hodges, and Cooper Rush as undrafted QBs to win each of their first 3 career starts since the year 2000. Now, that is, I don't know which is better, the Carson Wentz undefeated on Thursday night, or PJ Walker going 3-0 and joining such an illustrious group like Duck Hodges and Kyle Allen and Cooper Rush as undefeated in their first 3 career starts. On the Rams side of things, there's our only bright spark at the moment on offense is Cooper Kupp. He had 7 catches for 125 yards and, of course, a touchdown last week. He leads the NFL with 49 receptions, the most by a player in the team's first 5 games of the season of all time, and ranks second with 527 receiving yards. They are really struggling with getting everyone else involved. They tried to get Tyler Higbee involved in the game there last week. Allen Robinson is fast becoming probably the bust of the season. So far, the defense is still playing well. The playmakers are doing what they need to do. Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey especially. But Rain, since you are the Panthers fan, this is the first game now under the Steve Wilkes era, whether that's short term or long term. What are your thoughts ahead of this game?
Okay, so what I like about this game is the fact that Matt Rule is gone. The shadow is no longer hanging over the Carolina Panthers. Baker Mayfield will more than likely not start this game, which means PJ Walker is in. And I do not expect Baker Mayfield to take another snap for the Panthers in his career.
That's
simply because
call.
We've really flipped on Baker Mayfield from the start of the season.
No. Look. This is all logic, all right?
So are you saying PJ
Panthers,
Walker or Sam Darnold?
Yes, 100% would take Sam Darnold at this stage.
What? Do you not remember what happened last year?
He suits the scheme better, man. And Christian McCaffrey is healthy, and he looked like a competent quarterback in the first 3 weeks.
Quick knock on wood. Christian McCaffrey's healthy.
Well, yeah, this is it. But no, getting back to my point, Baker Mayfield, if he starts 70% of the snaps this season, the 4th round pick that the Panthers gave away gets upgraded to a 3rd round pick. The Panthers do not have a whole lot of draft capital going into next season. So it makes no logical sense for an interim head coach to keep going along with this guy who has proved he's a bust in the first 5 weeks of the season. I think you're better off going with PJ Walker, who's a total unknown, or go back to Sam Darnold to just give him another shot. Like, that would be the redemption story of the season if he could come back and pull the Panthers back to a winning season. It's not going to happen, but it would be great if it did. But then looking towards things that I don't like about this game, the Rams are coming off the back of an ugly defeat to the Cowboys, one that they didn't really expect either. So the tail's going to be a bit between the legs there. There's nothing more dangerous than a wounded animal, and I think Sean McVay is going to be chomping at the bit to get another win under his belt here to get them back to 500. And I think that's going to be to the detriment of the Carolina Panthers. This is going to be a nasty one for the Carolina Panthers.
I tell you a fun stat I seen the other day. The Panthers have outscored the Rams this season in total. Isn't that a fun stat? I can't remember where I seen it. It was on Reddit. It was on Twitter. That's a fun stat. I enjoyed that stat. Having said that, this is a game the Rams badly need to go their way, and it seems like it just my head coach fired, starting an undrafted quarterback who, well, as we know, has won his first 2 starts, but still still a rookie quarterback. You got Christian McCaffrey, not a rookie quarterback, sorry, but like undrafted quarterback with not a lot of game experience. You still got Christian McCaffrey, but I think this is a game where the Rams, as you said, it really are coming off an ugly loss and need to get back on track. And this, if they don't win this one, we really need to start calling for somebody else to take the helm at the Rams or do something else. I don't know, but they need to change something up if they can lose to this team this week.
Yeah, if ever there was a get-right game, it's the Panthers at 1-4 with their defense busted up, which they are at the moment. So
it's also one of those games that could go the opposite way and it'd be like a complete destruction of the Rams.
This is a very dangerous game, I think, for the Rams, because it's so tough to go in the first game of a head coach because you don't exactly know what they're going to do or what way they're going to scheme up things. Because, you know, you had tape on Matt Rule's Panthers for the last few years. You don't have any tape on Steve Wilkes' Panthers now for these past, obviously because of the first game. There's been so many changes, especially on that Rams offense. Obviously, losing OBJ, losing, Andrew Whitworth, losing even Sony Michel in the running game, because I'm sure they'd love him right now because they can't get anything going in the running game. Also, some losses that hasn't been discussed, and it's very underrated, is they've lost two important coaches on the offense as well. Kevin O'Connell, who was their offensive coordinator, who's the head coach of the Rams, and Wes Phillips, who was the tight ends coach, who's now the offensive coordinator at the Vikings now as well. You know, it didn't affect him so much last year when Brandon Staley left, because that was on the defensive side of the things. I think, who was it that came in instead? I can't remember, but if someone else came in and filled the hole, it was absolutely fine. But it just doesn't seem to be clicking so far in the offense. You're getting Detroit Lions Matt Stafford at the moment, not Super Bowl winning quarterback Matt Stafford. It's just it's really tough for them. I actually struggled to pick a winner in this one. As you know, if you follow the show on our social media, that we do a surprise of the week, and I think maybe the Panthers could be my surprise this week. And I think that they could possibly go to Los Angeles and possibly maybe turn over the Rams if Christian McCaffrey can have the game that we hope he can have, and if PJ Walker can limit mistakes as well.
Yeah, I think another stat that kind of feeds into all that is the Panthers are the only team left in the league who have every single play that they've played this season on offense, they've had the same 5 offensive linemen out there for every single play. On the flip side of that, the Rams, I think, have had 6 or 7 different offensive line combinations this season. So PJ Walker's going to feel nice and comfortable back there.
Even Derek Brown as well has had a really good start to the year. So I think that is O-line for the Rams too. So I think I'm going to lean towards the Panthers on this one to be my surprise of the week. But we're running short on time, so we'll try and get through some of these games as quick as we can. And we're going to go to an NFC West matchup next. It's the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. The Cardinals coming off that heartbreaking 20-17 loss against the Eagles. The Seahawks coming back from their loss of 39-22 against the New Orleans Saints. Both sides going through some changes, lost some important pieces in the off season. Quarterback Kyler Murray hasn't really started the season too well. On the opposite side, Geno Smith has defied everyone's expectations. It's going to be the first start for rookie running back Ken Walker after the injury to Rashad Penny, which ruled him out for the rest of the season. The big thing on this game, of course, is that Seahawks defense and how poor that Seahawks defense has been this year. And it can't continue to be poor It can't continue to be poor before things change. I still don't know, though, if they're going to actually get things right in time for this game. Side note as well, that this is meant to kick off at 4:05 Eastern time, 9:05 Irish time. But there is a chance if the Seattle Mariners baseball team take it to a game 4 in their playoff game, it's played on the same day, and Seattle have said that they will move their time from 4:05 Eastern to 5:30 Eastern or 10:30 Irish time. So there could be some switching around in that game too. But because of the home advantage and because how well Gino is playing, and I think the Cardinals defense is quite poor. I'm going to lean towards a Seahawks win on this game. But Jake, I'll start with you first on this. Who do you think is going to come out on top?
Yeah, tough game, as you said. Both poor defenses. The Geno experiment seems to be going very right for the Seahawks, and he might be able to put up some points on the old Carolina or Cardinals defense. Having said that, I feel like I might be leaning towards the Cardinals win this one. Might be just a bit of a get right game for Kyler Murray and the crew. So I think I'm gonna go with that one. They got that Eno Benjamin coming back in now. Starting to play. James Conner has a couple of touchdowns on the season, so we'll have to see how that goes. But I think I might be leaning Cardinals on this one.
Yeah, you see, for me, the Seahawks have a bad defense, but the Cardinals are just a bad football team. They're putrid on offense in the first half, and I think that the Seahawks can rack up a few points in the first half and get the job done early out there. I have always been a passenger on the Geno Smith train, but I'm the full-on conductor now. I'm riding that bandwagon all the way home. I think he's going to have a big game again at the weekend against the Cardinals, and I think he's going to get out to an early lead, and I think that's going to be the difference. The Seahawks are winning this game.
Mm-hmm. A crazy stat that I saw during the week as well, that the Seahawks have always been known as having poor offensive lines. This year, their pass block win rate is second in the league at 66%. And that's with two rookie tackles as well on either side, Charles Cross and Abe Lucas there too. So I think the Seahawks O-line has been sneakily good. Obviously, with the likes of JJ Watt there on that line, he's really going to test them. I think for the likes of, playing up against the likes of Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport gave him a good test and he held up well. It's going to be important for them to hold up, to give that running game an opportunity and to give Geno the time to throw the ball. But I think they will. It's going to be important for the Seahawks defense, especially that defensive line, to actually try and get pressure on Kyler Murray, make him uncomfortable, make him have to leave the pocket and throw it, and then the linebackers of Jordan Brooks and Cody Barton have to be on alert if he does break out, that they are there to stop and make sure he doesn't run for too much as well. But I am going to go and lean towards a Seahawks win. Did everyone pick their winners on this game? Sorry, before I move on.
I think we were pretty Cardinal Seahawk on this one.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, I think the reason that the pass block rate is as good as it is for the Seahawks is that they now have a quarterback worth protecting.
Well, look, I won't say any more after that. We'll wait until we preview a Broncos game before I say anything about that. But let's move on to the last of the late games. And crazily enough, this game is not prime time. It's the Bills traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Both teams are 4-1. Josh Allen against Patrick Mahomes again in a repeat of the AFC championship game last season, which ended in fireworks, and the whole game was fireworks. And I cannot wait for this game, and I have no clue who's going to win. So, Jake, I'm going to let you start on this one.
Perfect. I'll give you a stat here I read the other day. This is like the second time in Patrick Mahomes' career that he's not the favorite in his home stadium. That's just saying how strong this Bills team is against. Let's just be honest with the Chiefs this year. They're winning, but they're kind of winning ugly, if that makes sense. They don't seem to be as crisp and as smooth as they have been in last year, the previous years. Patrick Mahomes is obviously Patrick Mahomes, but they have to grind out the wins by the looks of things. Every time I watch them, it's like there's no smooth kind of play going on. We did see Travis Kelce have a big game on him last week, 4 touchdowns, but only 25 yards receiving. It's just like, this is crazy. I don't know. This is the game of the week. Obviously, we all have it on our calendars to watch this one. I'm all in on this one. I don't know who to pick either there. I have no idea. I may be leaning towards the Bills, just how they've looked a bit more smooth for me. But man, this is going to be a good game.
Yeah,
I actually
just before Reen, sorry, I just wanted because you made a great thing there about Travis Kelce, and I compare it to like 4 touchdowns and only getting like 25 yards receiving. It's like in football with Erling Haaland at the moment. He has 8 touches in the game and scores like 4 goals. You know, he doesn't touch the ball, but anytime he gets it, he's scoring goals, or like Travis Kelce is scoring touchdowns. But sorry, Reem, to interrupt you there.
Yeah, I was going to say that I actually like this kind of chaoticness that the Chiefs have this season, that it's not as smooth sailing as it is. You had a nice stat to start out, Jake. I have a stat too. Patrick Mahomes has not thrown a touchdown to a wide receiver in the last 3 weeks, but he has 8 touchdown passes in that span. That's an insane stat. That's crazy. And it means that they're getting the job done in different ways, right? Their receiving core is not as good as it has been in the last few years, but that doesn't really matter when you have the Chiefs, you have Bieniemy, you have Reed on that sideline, calling in wacky plays and getting the job done. I like the Chiefs in this one, particularly because they're at home in Arrowhead Stadium. I'm taking the Chiefs in this one, although it's not going to be by much.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Chiefs won the AFC Championship game earlier on that year. I think it was week 2 or week 3 of that season last season. The Bills did play the Chiefs in Arrowhead as well, and the Bills won that game. And that was sort of the Bills making a statement for that season. I think we could see something similar again. I do think that maybe I hearing both of you talk about both teams, I'm kind of have like one on each shoulder here telling me which team to go for. I think I'm going to lead towards the Bills side of things at the moment. I think that they just have too much about them. I think they're just too dangerous at the moment. And I think that Bills defense especially is so much more dangerous than the Chiefs defense. Both of these quarterbacks, improvisers, can get out of the pocket, can run, pass on the run, can do that. That stat of like 8 touchdown passes and none to a wide receiver just means that it's going to be a wide receiver this week he has to get it to, because I've been burned, I think, 2 weeks now saying that a wide receiver would score a touchdown on a bet and he hasn't. So, because Travis Kelce odds are always too short for my liking anyway. Both teams, strangely enough, too, are struggling with the run game. Their quote unquote lead back struggled last week. You know, Clyde Edwards-Helaire didn't have a great week last week, and neither did Devil Singletary for the Bills. So they went to their backups, and Jerick McKinnon had a good game for the Chiefs. And then was it Zach Moss? No, it wasn't. It was James Cook that scored a touchdown for the Bills against the Steelers last week. So it'd be interesting to see how the running game gets on too. But yeah, I think I'm going to lean for a Bills victory in this game. And like I said, an absolutely crazy game that it's not going to be as prime time, but it just means us Irish fans can watch it, and it's going to be great because we get Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on the call too, so that's always fun. Right, 2 games left. Let's get through these quickly. It's the 2 primetime games. It is Sunday Night Football first. The 4-1 Dallas Cowboys traveling to Philadelphia to take on the undefeated 5-0 Eagles. Jake, you are the NFC East fan in this group, so I'm going to let you start on this one.
Yeah, I don't know. This is crazy. Whoever thought the Cowboys start Cooper Rush would be 3 wins in a row with him starting. So that's just crazy for them that the running backs they have seem to do it quite well. Sometimes it looks Zeke's better, sometimes Tony Pollard's playing better. CeeDee Lamb is playing out of his mind. Micah Parsons is playing out of his mind. That D-line is just incredible. Now, we can all agree none of us like Trayvon Diggs, and we can all just harp on that as much as we like, but it seems like they're good. I don't know. It's annoying me that they're good with their backup quarterback and stuff. But then on the Eagles side, we just know they're 5-0. It's just an incredible team for them to have started so well. Jalen Hurts seems to have changed from what looked like a rushing-only quarterback to someone who actually can throw the ball now. Maybe that A.J. Brown trade in the offseason has done more good than we ever thought it would have for that team. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good game, actually. I think all these matchups tend to be good, especially with the NFC Beast this year. So I don't know who to pick. I'm gonna stick with the Eagles in this one. They're gonna go 6-0. I think they're just that much stronger than the Cowboys.
Yeah, for me, I want to roll it back to when we were discussing the start of the season and we were starting talking about how Cowboys fans have been pretty quiet this year, and I'm worried that it might be their year. It's looking pretty hot as a take right now, with them being at 4-1 at the moment, and that defense is mean. Now, I don't like the secondary very much. They keep getting burned for big yardage, and most of that is down to Trayvon Diggs. But it is the first real test that the Eagles have faced against the defense. That front that the Cowboys have, I think they're going to really get in Jalen Hurts' face, make him throw the ball off platform and stuff like that. And I think this might be a game where Jalen Hurts gives the ball away a couple of times, maybe by putting it on the turf or throwing a couple of interceptions. And I think that might be the key to a Cowboys victory. So I'm taking the Cowboys in this one.
I'm just looking at the stat there. The Eagles have a +9 takeaway giveaway there, so they've taken away 11 balls and only given away 2. So I mean that could happen, and we know Trayvon Diggs likes to take his old interceptions for the punishment of big yard plays, but could happen, all right.
It could. I think a big factor in this game in the last few games has been Devonta Smith and how he's sort of, stood up and has been a really, really good wide receiver too, to sort of help when they can't get the ball to AJ Brown. The worry I have for the Eagles, and Rain, we've talked about this on a previous show as well, that I think this is the first sort of quality sort of defense that they're going to face now. The Eagles, they haven't really faced some quality. Before they faced the Cardinals last week, they had not faced a team that had a winning record last year. Now they're facing 2 teams in 2 weeks that have actually went to the playoffs last year. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, I don't know, would you guys know or not? I actually haven't followed it up this week, but is Dak Prescott in line to play?
No, he's not starting anyway. It seems that they're giving him another week off and letting Cooper Rush go at it.
Right. Okay. That's okay then. I think if Dak was to play, I would be worried for the Cowboys in this, just because he's coming in cold after a couple of weeks, especially going to the link to face this Eagles defensive line for sure that has been, wrecking teams a lot this year. I'm gonna actually go for the Cowboys in this as well. I think that the Eagles are going to have to lose at some stage, and I think this could be the game they do. The Cowboys showed that. I think this crazy stat time, because I found this crazy stat about this too. The Cowboys are the only team in the NFL that have not allowed multiple touchdowns in a game. So that can
not
continue.
At all.
No, they've only allowed more than 1 touchdown in a game.
All right.
So I think the Eagles as well showed last week against the Cardinals that no, it could be wrong. It could be passing touchdown, but it's definitely no more than 1 in a game. But the Eagles showed, especially last week, that like in the second half they just didn't come out. The first half they played well against the Cardinals and sort of were, imposing their will on the team, and I think that's what's going to happen again this year. Or that could happen this week, but I worry about the second half. I am going to go for the Cowboys to win this, and both sides will end the week at 5-1. Nothing else to say about that. That's what I like to hear. I like to hear that sounds a nice silence. While we move on to the last game of the week, it's the Monday Night Football. It is an AFC West matchup. It is Denver Broncos traveling to LA to take on the LA Chargers. Of course, the Broncos coming off that terrible, awful, I can't say any more about it, like unwatchable game against the Colts where they lost in overtime 12-9. The Chargers escaped Cleveland with a 30-28 win, where they should have actually really lost that game. I have a lot of issues, and I was going to say it earlier on this week. Unfortunately, we didn't get the chance to look back at last week, but I'll say it now. These crazy, stupid 4th and short calls near the end of the game have to stop. Brandon Staley almost lost that game for the Chargers last week because he couldn't just punt a ball into the 20 or the 10-yard line on the Cleveland Browns side of things with a minute to go when Cleveland had no timeouts left. Where in analytics does it say when you're on your own 40-yard line with 1 minute left, 2 points up, to go for it on 4th and 2nd instead of punting a ball when the other team has no timeouts? I don't get it. But I still think, though, the Chargers are going to play well in this game and win against the Broncos. I'm not convinced by the Broncos offense. I'm not convinced they're going to get it fixed in time, despite their little mini bye at the moment. And I think Broncos fans are starting to turn a bit. They're this close to shit hitting the fan if it hasn't already, and before it gets really ugly. But Ryan, I'll go to you next on this one. What are you thinking ahead of the Monday Night Football?
Yeah, just going back quickly to what you said about the analytics. I saw a great quote during the week that was head coaches will jump out of a window before taking the stairs because analytics tells them it's faster. So, yeah, that kind of struck not a nerve, but it definitely resonated with me. Yeah, like you said, Dara, I can't see the Chargers coming out of this game with a loss because the Broncos have just been dysfunctional so far this season. Their pass game is broken. The running game is now broken since Javonte Williams went down. So I just see no positives with the Broncos at the moment. I'm sure they will get it figured out at some point in the season, but right now they haven't got it done. And the Chargers are a good football team, so they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think the Broncos are just woeful in almost every phase of the game right now, especially down in the red zone where they're like the worst team in the NFL, I'm sure, at this stage in the season. They just can't seem to score properly. It seems to be that their kicker is having a good workout every single Sunday and his legs probably sore at this stage of the season. I could just see Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, and just no stopping them. So I'm absolutely leaning the Chargers on this one.
Yeah, and the injuries are stacking up for the Broncos as well. They lost Garrett Bowles to that broken leg. Randy Gregory went on IR before the game. There's so many injuries happening, and I can't see things going well for the Broncos in this game, especially with the likes of Marlon Mack ready to feast on Russell Wilson's soul for sure on this one. But that is where we're going to wrap up. That is all the games preview. Decision. Before we go, this show, of course, was brought to you in partnership with Locker. Locker is a new sports app that centralizes premium sports content and puts the power in the hands of fans to personalize their world of sport, including a wide range of premium NFL sources that can be tailored to your fan experience. Download the app for free in the Irish and UK iOS and Play Store. Today, also make sure you're following us on our social channels at UnderCenterPod on Instagram and Twitter. Be kept up to date with the latest news. For YouTube, subscribe Under Center Podcast. Same thing for wherever you get your podcasts. Under Center Podcast. Subscribe there. You'll get the show every week. You get it broken down too if you want to listen to it in bite-sized chunks. Ryan and Jake, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Cheers.
And we'll be back again next week to look back at week 6 and then look ahead to week 7. But until then, stay safe.